Hello, Jim Maley here. This is a video update related to COVID, actually related to some other borough business that's come up as well, because while a whole lot of things have stopped, operating as usual has not stopped, and we've got a bunch of things we have to deal with. So let me first start. We have Rich Spafford is here with us today. Special guest, Rich is running the Merchantville-Pennsauken Water Commission, who is in a shared service, is hired to be our operator of our water plant. It's been a great relationship the last few years. It's all worked really, really well for us. And Rich is here to talk a little bit about some of the water system issues that we're dealing with right now. But before we get to that, I want to touch just simply on an issue on COVID. We're sitting here beginning of December. It is still raging. All the accounts are it's going to be getting worse through these holidays. So we encourage you to mask, distance, wash your hands, do all those things. Good Lord, this morning, I know every day is the same day. There's no difference. We're getting up, working, falling asleep, working more, sleeping, and trying to find some way to amuse ourselves. But really encourage you to do this. Collingswood's hanging in with our numbers. They are going up like the rest of the county is, but we're still hanging in. And knock wood, I hate to say it, but put it this way, serious cases have not been what we've experienced. We've been doing pretty good for the last couple months. With that though, as we're expecting spikes, there were also, we're expecting, I think the news today is that there may be the first vaccine that's approved here in the States, and as early as next week, frontline workers will be getting vaccines. So while it's getting a little worse, there's also some hopeful signs that may be coming to an end. And we feel it's prudent to begin planning for what's next. We've been having regular calls, most of the time every week, but every 2 weeks with all of our businesses. We've been doing these updates with everybody, hearing from all of you, talking to as many people as we can. And also through Collingswood Cares, we've had an opportunity to see those families that are struggling the worst. So we think there's some weak spots, and we think there's some things that we can be doing better. We think there's some breaks in kind of in the social services, some changes that we're going to need to help our businesses. And so we're going to put together a little bit of a committee, a bit of a recovery committee, going to be made up of some of our businesses, some of our pastors, probably through our fire department. We have chaplains that our pastors are involved with, some of our residences, our schools, kind of pull everyone together, get a little working group together to help us get out of this on every level, from the neighborhoods to our business district, to our schools, to our institutions. So you'll see that news coming soon. We don't have a name for it yet, probably some kind of a recovery committee, but we're going to try to put a group together to work on getting Collingswood not just back to where we were, but in every way making us a little bit better. Okay, so I wanted everybody to be aware of that. That's coming over the next couple of weeks. So let's talk about water. This is an issue that has arisen. We're not alone in this. This is an issue that is hitting a lot of towns. It's PFOS, PFOA is the contaminant. I don't have the full name for it. It is a product that comes off of kind of a residual product from Teflon, I know from firefighting foam, from some different products that has worked its way into different aquifers and water supplies throughout the state. The DEP has established a new standard for this contaminant, a lower threshold for the contaminant that is, as Rich will go through some details, that our one well on the west side is going to be hovering right around. It's going to be pretty close. So we're going to need to take some pretty drastic steps, pretty expensive steps in the long run. But it will keep us in compliance with the DEP regs. Your water is still safe. It's some changes in what those regs are. and get us on kind of a long-term path. We have a short-term plan, a plan to try to get some other people's money to help pay for this, and then a longer-term plan down the line. So, Rich, you want to talk a little bit? Sorry, taking up all this time, but why don't we talk a little bit?
No, the DEP has announced limits for PFOS and PFOA. The limits are 13 and 14 parts per trillion, respectively. So they become effective January 1st. Now, in all of our testing at the one well at the west side, you are 100% right. You hover right around the limits. So to be proactive and make sure that we do comply with their new maximum contaminant limit that they have on it, we are going to treat for it. So the temporary fix would be to rent large carbon units. So they're large filters that would sit outside the existing treatment plant. The water would flow through them and remove the minute concentrations. And again, I mean, we're talking parts per trillion. If you went back 2 or 3 years, you couldn't detect anywhere near this kind of level. So they're advancing in all new technologies and treatment abilities on the water treatment front through the DEP and the EPA. So it's things we've never looked at before that we now need to treat for. The carbon filters, again, they'll remove it on a temporary basis for as long as we need them. We can run it as a pilot study. It does need to be permitted temporarily through the DEP, but we can run them. We just need to change out the carbon periodically as the carbon becomes spent, as it removes the chemical. But again, they can stay in effect as long as we need. The permanent fixture would be eventually to build a full treatment plant with a full carbon setup where we could have a primary and a secondary filter behind it, so you'll never have a breakthrough. But again, that's a longer term. It takes a little bit longer to permit, design the full plant, and then go to the DEP. Once they have their full approval, you're looking anywhere from a year to a year and a half by the time it goes through the design and the permitting, and then probably another year in construction. So long term, you're looking at 2.5 years before we really have a permanent fix, but we can address it in the immediate future with a temporary carbon filter.
And I can tell folks that we have been aware that this is coming. So one of the things in trying to get other people's money, and by other people, I mean the state has a fund of, it's called the Spill Fund, that they provide to towns that either are direct grants, sometimes they're low interest loans, but there's a couple, and there's the Environmental Infrastructure Trust that also has different loan programs that we may be able to get some, great deals on financing, hopefully some just direct money. But part of the analysis that's necessary at the state level that we go through is what they call an alternatives analysis. And that's basically the state says, look, before you come to us to fund a project, you need to do a study and show us that this is the most effective way for you to deal with this issue. And so that's been completed. We've kind of got that pretty much all done. Takes a while, but we have that pretty much all set up, and we're going to be working to try to get that funding from the state to help reduce the cost to us. The cost of the temporary solution, we're expecting to be between $50,000 and $100,000 for next year. That's an expense we haven't really anticipated. And so for our water rates, we're actually in the process of approving an ordinance. There'll be a 5% increase in water rates to help us cover that. But it will ensure that we keep the best quality of water. It will also help buttress our system of public water supply. A lot of you see towns all around us that are signing up with New Jersey American. I guess the last one did a few years ago. Haddonfield did with New Jersey American. It is a short-term, very lucrative thing to do. You can make a lot of money doing it. It is not what we think is such a good idea going forward. We really want the borough and to keep our public water system as a public water system. And in order to do that and keep control of that, we're going to have to keep spending the money to upgrade it, to try and improve it and make sure that our water quality stays where it's at. Rich, anything else? I think that's pretty much covers us.
Just a few things. You are 100% right with New Jersey American. New Jersey American actually did notify us that they are in the same predicament, and they're going to be adding treatment on so their costs are also going to increase for their residents. Quite a bit higher to begin with, but
yeah, their costs are pretty high right now. Yeah,
they are, and then you look at their added treatment, so their costs are going up just like everybody else's. The other side of it is Collingswood's not alone. It looks like the PFOA and PFOS is all up and down the Delaware River Basin area. So it makes sense with all the manufacturing that's been going on there for years. This travels very easily through groundwater. So it seems to be the entire area within 5-10 miles of the Delaware River. So that seems to be the water systems that are all in need to address it. So.
Yeah, the state has started, you may have seen in the papers, the state has started a few different, started a lawsuit related to West Deptford has some pretty severe contamination. There are some plants, industrial plants nearby there that they believe are responsible for it. And the state has started a lawsuit there. In my work, a couple of the towns that we do work for are dealing with it on a big time basis. It's posing a pretty serious problem. And you can kind of see but it's not just us here in South Jersey, in North Jersey, all throughout the state. This is a big issue that the DEP, while the one side of DEP set the standards, there's another side of the DEP that's grappling with how are we going to be able to help towns deal with this to meet these new thresholds that have been set up by the regulators on the DEP side. So you'll see more of this. It's coming. We have in place the systems to take care of our water system on the short term. We have a plan for the long term. We don't know what that's going to cost exactly yet for the long term. $6 million is roughly a number that we have. How much money we can get from other people, we're plugging away at it, working with state legislators and everybody else to try to get us, get us in good shape for that. So with that, Rich, thanks so much for taking the time. This is our little get together. That's a socially distant get together. Hopefully we don't have to do it much longer. Everyone be safe, be really careful out there. We hope you enjoy the lead up to these holidays in this very different way that we all get to enjoy it. Okay, so thank you all. Rich, thanks so much.
Thank you.